building successful companies to investing to, it's not just figuring out how to make the money. Then you got to, you got to grow the money, and then you got to make sure other people don't take it away from you. I had a couple people in my life that just changed everything for me because they would work so hard to find the thing in me that was my unique ability, my strength, and they would just pour everything into me into that lane. And once I understood that connection between having that right person, the mentor as we call them today, and coach as well, but really that mentor that wasn't just so specific down a very narrow lane, but that they could help you see a much bigger picture in life. That mentorship model um, was magical to me. And as a young person, because um, the martial arts, I picked it up quickly because I trained it heavily and a lot, and it was really important to me because it was something that I knew I could be good at if I trained. It was all about me. It wasn't the team thing, even though we fought tournaments as a team, but it was very individualized. And so for me, that became a pretty incredible uh, opportunity for me to help other people because as you move up through the belts, you're required to teach the younger belts consistently, whether you kind of liked it or not. And I kind of found my lane in teaching, and it was I didn't know it at the time, but I was very good at it, and I could get people to believe in themselves quickly by helping them figure out a little frame, a little model on how they could think about the thing that we were teaching. And I didn't know that was going to kind of be my thing, going forward, and that um, led me to be really diligent about everything that I did from that point forward. Is like I had to figure out the model. I had to figure out like the framework. And once I got it, it's like a formula. You just kind of plug the variables in, and you're gonna get a result. And so having that model moving forward helped me to deal with the crazy amount of stress that uh, I either was external and was coming after me, or was the stress and anxiety that I created for myself, which is usually the case for people that are wired like us, because it never seems to be enough, or we always have to look at the world as it needs to be bigger, better, faster all the time. Uh, why don't they do it like this? Constantly going on in your head. And that gave me the ability to pretty much anything that I tackled in life was I knew it's just going to take X amount of hours, depending on the thing. Some people say it's, 20 hours, 30 hours, 40 hours, but if you could just invest 20, 30 hours into something, and you could, especially today, you could really have a good handle on how something works if you were just willing to invest the time and you had the right framework, the right model. And I took that concept, that idea into every aspect of my life. And so, when you ask me about the idea of having, all of these different things coming at me and all the different stressors from, building successful companies to investing to, it's not just figuring out how to make the money. Then you got to, you got to grow the money, and then you got to make sure other people don't take it away from you. And then there's the tax man that's always coming. Um, and so you're constantly trying to figure out different strategies and ideas. And then, then they change the tax code, and what worked, for the last 20 years, they switch it up and now it doesn't work, like the R&D tax credit. Um, and so there's things evolve, things consistently change. And if we don't have a clear framework, a clear model to follow for all aspects of life, and then ultimately have the right who's in your life, the right mentors, it's going to be a tough go for anybody. And for me, when I have all these, these different, sort of being attacked from all these different angles, yeah, I used to go right into fight mode quickly, and and I would go into fight mode. And usually in that model, the head's not as clear as it should be, and not thinking is clear. And um, back in the day, my kind of one tool, because as Master Luki says, I wasn't particularly athletic and wasn't particularly strong, um, wasn't particularly flexible, but like, man, you got really long legs and really big feet, and let me teach you how to use those. So he taught me this roundhouse concept, and all the different ways you could use that motion, that striking method. And I just took that model, and I kind of like, anything I'd move into is like, when I felt any kind of pressure or stress or whatever, I'm like, oh man, I could just put my 14 right upside that person's head and knock them out cold. Or, with like thank God it just happened in my mind that fast, and then, decompress, and I don't want to go to jail. But there's uh, the what I would call the wisdom in that is that I had a tool to go to that helped me build up my confidence quickly, like instantaneously if I needed it. Because in this particular situation, if I'm feeling fear, my fight or flight's kicking in, and now I'm in this hormone based um, thought process, because now, your nervous system is taking over, and now it's trying to protect you, and you got to make a decision, and it's not just the decision in that split second, but you also got to think about the consequences of the decision. When you're younger, we don't think about consequences. You just strike, and then, I'll figure it out later. And that happens in all aspects of life, right? So like right now I've got, various issues going on with family members, you know, the senior people in our lives, parents and in-laws, and, where people are passing away and people are sick, and, um, battling folks with dementia, or not battling, but learning how to manage individuals as they're aging, as I'm aging, is something that's, it's a new challenge that I've had to really work on and address. And but I find that I have a model to think about it, right? I have a model to think about all of these processes, and most of it comes down to is, how quick can I get to forgiveness? So when I feel like I've been wronged in some way, or accused of something that I didn't do, or anything that's would be, considered negative, is there's always different stories in that model, and it's always a perspective or a perception. Somebody experienced something, and you didn't feel or see it the same way. They have a story, you have a story, and you got to figure out how to deal with that situation. And for me, it's how fast can, if I harm somebody or wrong somebody, how fast can I get to an apology? And hopefully, how fast can I get them to forgive me? Or can I forgive myself for harming somebody? Or, what? Sometimes there's just things you can't control, and you just have to forgive in that moment and move on. And my model today is very simple. How quick can I get to forgiveness? Because if I can live in forgiveness, I'm not living in the past.